Welcome to the Possibility Action Network podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Middleton, aka Possibility Man. We are committed to bringing you guests who strive to better people's lives and serve as a force for good in the world. Today, our guest is Anna Giannakouros. She is a mother of three. She was educated at Concordia University and Vanier College. She has a background in computer software technology. She is a life coach, a health consultant, and a chronic illness advocate. Anna, you've been busy. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you for such an awesome introduction. Thank you so much.
Happy that you're here. Hey, look, where are you currently in the world? Where do you live?
I'm in Montreal, Canada.
Montreal. Has spring sprung in Montreal, or are you all still digging out winter? Finally?
No, yeah. It's been really nice. We've had amazing weather this May. Super grateful for that, because other years, spring kicks in a little bit later on. So this year we were blessed with warm weather, and I love warm weather. So it's great. My pool is open. I've been getting some sun, getting my vitamin D every day. I'm super happy.
That sounds.
Don't ask me in February. Don't ask me how happy I'm in February, but right now I'm super happy.
Right, but that's fantastic. Happy that spring is sprung there in Montreal. Hey, look, I mentioned that you have a background in computer software technology. Can you share with us, a little bit about your early career?
Sure. So I went into management information systems at Concordia University, like you mentioned, when I was a young adult, and I began a career in the software industry. I was in support, I was in customer service, I was in R&D, research and development. I was a project manager. I went into testing, and that was my career until, and I was very successful at it and loved it. I don't know if I loved it, but I loved being successful at it.
Yeah.
Right. So I loved that part of my life. I'm so sorry. I'm just gonna put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I didn't realize that.
That's fine.
And I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine.
So yeah, that was my career. My husband was also in the same industry, my friends, and that was my life really until about 5 or 6 years ago when I retired.
I want to ask you about that career though. So as a software, how did you choose that field as a career? What attracted you to that?
Wow, what a good question. So I didn't know what to go into. So I was always into spirituality. I loved reading. I loved writing. When I was a kid, I wanted to be like a journalist, an author. Well, actually, originally I wanted to be an astronaut or a mermaid. That was my original dream, to be honest. And then at that time, and it's nobody's fault really, but I believed that I had to go into a field where I could make money and find a good job. That was what was driving me.
Yeah.
And I really believed that I had to do that. And so that's what I did. I went into computer science because at that time in the year 2000, when I graduated, that was really a hot market, and I wanted to make money. And and that's why I went into that industry. I think if I had a choice, if I could go back, I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't become a journalist like I wanted to.
I see. Yeah. Hindsight is always 20.
Yeah,
exactly.
Perfect,
right? Yeah.
Hey,
but you started to tell us that you retired a few years ago. And I wanted to ask you, I know that, and I'm not sure of the depth of it, but that you had a life-changing, let's call it event, which led to your retirement. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So when I was 33, I got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And at that time, I was like determined to beat it, and it wasn't going to affect my life and my career and I still feel like that in some ways. But all this to say, I was diagnosed with MS, and I was on medication. I started treatment and tried alternative therapies, and carried on with my life. Like it was an invisible illness at that time. People didn't really know that I had it.
Okay. Well, but Anna, I'll tell you what, before we go on with that, may I ask you a question, please? Because some of the audience, we all have heard about multiple sclerosis, but some people don't understand what it is. Can
Mhm.
you tell us what it is and describe for us some of the symptoms that are
Sure.
associated with it?
Yeah. So multiple sclerosis is an autoimmune disease. And basically, the white blood cells of your body attack the myelin sheaths of your nerves. So it's your white blood cells attack you, and they cause damage to the envelope that covers our nerves. So original, like when the damage occurs at the beginning, the body often heals itself, and you won't necessarily have symptoms for a very long period of time because the body will heal itself. But after prolonged damage or injury, what happens is that the envelopes of the nerve develop scar tissue, and that's where we call multiple sclerosis. It actually comes from a Greek word where there's multiple places on your nerve envelope where there's scar tissue, and it becomes like a scar.
Okay.
All this to say that what that does is it causes nerve damage. And depending on, when those attacks happen, we call them, like on your brain, well, they're called lesions. So you end up with lesions on your brain or on your spinal cord. In my case, it's on my cervical spine. And so what happens is, that's why the symptoms of MS are different for every person, because it depends on where your lesions are.
Okay.
So if the lesions are in different areas of your brain, you might have cognitive issues, as well as like disability and other problems, you know.
Okay.
When they're on your spine, like I have them, again, I'm not like, I don't know, in my experience, that's caused me to have disability where I can no longer walk without a mobility aid.
Okay.
Like I need a walker to walk.
So difficulty walking is one of the symptoms.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of symptoms. What are
some of the other symptoms associated with it?
So there's fatigue, an incredible amount of fatigue, and there is pain.
Okay.
There's nerve pain, and brain fog.
Okay.
Some, memory loss, things like that.
Understood.
And the worst symptom for me, aside from the disability, the nerve damage, is spasticity. Spasticity is a huge thing with MS. So basically, you want to bend your legs, but they straighten. You want to straighten them, but they bend.
Right.
And it's, for me, I have, I forgot exactly what it's called, exterior spasticity, or I forgot the actual term. But the problem I have with what my spasticity is, I have a very hard time bending my knees. So you can imagine it's very difficult to walk if you can't bend your knees and do that, that bending motion. So it's also difficult for somebody else to bend my knees, because sometimes like my muscles will spasm straight. And it makes it where if somebody's just paralyzed, for example, it's easy to move their limbs around. But in my case, not only can I not move them in a certain way, but on top of that, they're kind of fighting to stay straight. So it's hard to, like, do certain movements.
I see. Yeah. Okay, so you were before this diagnosis, you're in your career. You wanted to make money. Life is going so well. Then this diagnosis. How did you feel? I mean, how did you feel when you got that news from your doctor?
Oh, I was shocked. I never thought that I would be diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. There was cancer in my family. My mom had passed away of cancer. I thought, if anything, I might get that one day, but I never imagined multiple sclerosis. And I didn't want to believe it. So I went to see several doctors. And with the MRI results, and I did a spinal tap, which came out positive. With those results, all the doctors told me that there was 99% probability that it was multiple sclerosis.
Right.
And so at that time, I did believe them after seeing, like, I think it was 4 different doctors. And So I was devastated, but I didn't think that I thought I was going to beat it.
Yeah.
I was convinced.
Okay. So when you say you thought that you would beat it,
that was my vocabulary at the time.
Yeah.
I don't
so what kinds of things? What kinds of things did you begin to do in your battle with muscular dystrophy, with this diagnosis that you got? Yeah.
With multiple sclerosis.
With multiple sclerosis.
Yeah.
I guess I almost started talking about myself.
Yeah, exactly. It's okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was already healthy, but I became even healthier.
Oh.
I changed my diet,
Mm.
and I started exercising a lot more. I mean, no, I was always exercising. I just continued with. I tried to lead an even more a healthier lifestyle than I was already leading.
Oh.
And then I did experimental things, like I did CCSVI at the time, which was called the liberation treatment.
Okay.
So I flew to California and Vancouver. I tried to do different therapies. I continued with my medication, and I started to get into different alternative therapies. Like I started doing yoga. I did some acupuncture.
Yeah.
I was trying. I was basically
Sure.
trying to cover all bases.
That makes sense.
I reduced the stress in my life. I turned down some career, options. I just wanted to keep my life. I wanted to stay less stressed in my life. And I think I did a good job. Like I'm glad that I did those changes, and they're amazing. Like even to this day, this is my lifestyle, and
Yeah.
regardless if you have a disease or not, you should try to live this way. It's
Yeah.
a great way to live.
Yeah, that's great. I want to look at that, because what you said is very important. You said you made some lifestyle changes, and of course you mentioned exercise. You were fit, but you became even fitter. I think that's the word. But I think you were pointing also that you changed the way that you eat, that your nutrition regimen changed,
Yeah.
lifestyle. So can you tell us about that? What kind of changes did you make in your nutrition? What you gave your body tempo?
Yeah. So back then, when I was first diagnosed, what I did is I cut out dairy and gluten. So what I would notice is when I would eat certain foods, and sugar as well. When I would eat certain foods, my symptoms were worse. So the tingling in my feet were worse. My gait was worse. The cramps, the pain in my feet. So I noticed depending on what I was eating, that my symptoms were better or worse. So that's what I did. I followed a paleo lifestyle, which is basically grain-free. So no rice, no gluten, no processed foods, no dairy, and just really healthy meats.
Yeah.
And a lot of vegetables and berries.
Yeah, I got you. It's amazing. I'm sure Montreal, Canada, is just like the United States and every place else. We go to these stores, and they got all of these packaged foods, or we can go to the meat counter and all of these processed foods. So, what have you learned about the deleterious effects of processed foods and many packaged foods? How do they hurt our bodies? I mean, just what have you learned about that?
I really believe that everybody's different. I just want to make that clear.
Okay.
So what I'm intolerant to, maybe you're not intolerant to. Some people can have certain foods and not have a reaction to them. Some people are vegan and they feel fantastic without eating meat. I've tried. I love eating meat. Like I feel a lot stronger when I'm eating. So I think everybody's body is different.
Right.
For me, what I notice is when I eat processed foods, or if I eat pork seems to bother me. Gluten, a croissant, for example, would be a disaster, because I don't feel well after I eat certain foods.
Yeah.
And that's what I use to gauge what is good for me and what's bad for me. Like, how do I feel when I eat something?
That's great. That's great. What you just reminded me of, I was talking to, or at least reading about functional medicine. And a doctor suggests that, I've heard a couple of doctors suggest that in order to really determine what foods are best for your body, that it's better to do a specific blood test on you so that you could be matched with the kinds of foods that would help you. So, and that's what you've said, that everyone is different. I think that's true.
And I actually did that blood test years ago, many years ago.
And what did you discover? What did you discover?
I did discover that I was in fact intolerant to mustard. Pork was in there, poultry was in there. It was many years ago, so I don't remember. Yogurt was in there, but not milk, interestingly enough. Cheddar cheese was in there. So it gave me an idea that I was on the right path, eliminating certain types of foods out of my diet.
That's
also,
fantastic.
What was in there was chemicals like polysorbate 80, which is a preservative that you'll find in a lot of foods, including food coloring. I'm actually intolerant to food coloring as well.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting.
Yeah,
But
yeah, and which reminded me of is that I've heard other doctors talk about food being medicine. Food is, and many of our medicines, obviously, as you know, come from food. So that's what you have reminded me of. So lifestyle changes, nutrition, but in reviewing your work and your life, I also saw a spirituality component of
yeah.
you,
Hmm.
Anna Giannakouros. So what is the spiritual element of your life today?
Okay, it's really just such a huge part of my life today. I'm in such a I'm in such a beautiful place. Really, I'm gonna get emotional.
Mm.
Um, really. Can I give you a little bit of background?
Yes, please.
So basically, I did relapse again. So I had MS. Like we said, I was diagnosed with it. Later on in my career, I took a new job around the age of 40, and I had a relapse. And I got a lot of new lesions in my spine, and I ended up taking a year off work. I decided to take a year off work just to focus on my healing, and I never ended up going back into that industry. But on during that, and then I did like a stem cell trial. I tried different, even more alternative methods to help with the MS. But about like 3 years ago, sorry, 4 years ago rather, I progressed to the secondary stage of multiple sclerosis. I was diagnosed with secondary progressive MS, which really means statistically that there isn't any hope for improvement and that the decline is inevitable. That's what the doctors say. And so I became really depressed. I felt like I had failed, you know. So I'm getting emotional.
That's fine. That's fine. Share with us.
Yeah. And so I went through a little bit of a depression, and then I felt the need. I started, I came across a quote from Eckhart Tolle. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's a
Yes, I
spiritual
am.
teacher. Love Eckhart Tolle. And so I got into Eckhart Tolle, read a little bit about him online and stuff. And I just very naturally, organically started reading things that made me, that I was gravitating to, that made me feel good. And I also started reading a lot about Sydney Banks, who's another spiritual teacher. And basically, I feel like my healing began, my spiritual healing. And so I began to like accept my current situation, really accept it, and with no judgment, like accepting it with no judgment, like not accepting that this is a bad thing that happened to me, but just accepting that things happen in life and sometimes we don't need to really know the answers behind them. And it doesn't affect who we are and our value as a person or anything like that. Like, we need to go through these challenges in life sometimes. The reason for them is bigger than us, and we don't even really need to know what the reasons are. But what's important is that we transcend them and find peace and happiness no matter what our circumstances are. So that was so comforting and beautiful for me to learn. And then from there, I just started to really just connect with people. And I found that it was so rewarding connecting with different people and sharing the same space with them, and a feeling of peace and love and gratitude. And so, yeah, I mean, that's where I am right now. I'm in I'm really in a good space. Yeah.
That's great. That's wonderful
Yeah.
to hear. Now, but you are a life coach, a health consultant, and you work with people. Let me ask you, do you work with people? Do you have clients or individuals that you work with?
Yeah. So this is new. So I've only gone into coaching in the past several months.
Okay.
It's new for me. And so far it's been incredibly rewarding. But yeah, I'm sorry, what was the question?
Well, yeah, how do you work with, but let me go back though.
Yeah.
So how did you know that serving as a life coach and a health consultant was right for you? How did you know? When you did software, you thought, I want to make money.
Yeah.
How did you know this was right for you?
I'll tell you exactly. What a good question. I wasn't searching anymore for what was right for me anymore. There was a point that I wanted to know what my purpose was and what I needed to do and be and provide and make and be. And when I let go of all that, I kind of fell into this. Like as I started I started blog. Actually, what really happened was I started blogging. So I felt the need to kind of release some emotion as I was going through the things that I learned in my life. I wanted to share them, and I needed like an outlet for them. And I started writing. And then a company approached me and asked if I can start blogging for them. And so I became a freelance blogger, just writing things out. And I started a following on Instagram, and this is what kind of led me into this realm. And again, I wasn't doing it so that I could have a purpose or a job or make money. Mm. And that's the beautiful thing about it. I was just being that person, going through my own lessons and needing an outlet to let them out or share them. And that's how I kind of went into that industry. And then from there, again, pursuing my own healing, pursuing my own learning, being inspired by these amazing mentors out there, these incredible teachers in the world. I fell into this other community, and just by healing myself, and I'm still a work in progress, we all are, but just by learning about these things and talking about them, I was able to organically connect with other people and help them, and as they helped me. And that's how I got into this industry. So that's the beautiful thing about it. Like sometimes they say, you know, like, stop trying so hard, just go with what feels good. And beautiful things manifest from that.
Okay.
You know, when you're coming,
go on, please.
When you're coming from a place of calmness and like love, as opposed to coming from a place of stress and feeling that you need to do something and be someone. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah. I do. Yeah, I got you. And I want to dig a little deeper into your writings. And so I found some things, I'm calling them quotables. That is things that you wrote. So I'm going to ask you about them, and I want you to just expound on them if you care to. And if not, that's okay too, just let me know. But here's something I found that you wrote. When things change inside you, things change around you.
Yeah.
What do you want us, what do you want readers like me to learn from what you're sharing?
I love that one. Oh my goodness. There's so much to say about that. So I really believe, this sounds corny, but I really believe that love is the answer. You know, when we say that in the 70s and stuff, when you're coming from a place of love within you, when you're feeling that love within you, love for yourself, for starters, everything around you changes, because the way that you see people and situations change. You know, when you're looking to find something, you'll find it. If you're looking to find fault with somebody or fault with a situation or anger, you will find it, because our brain works that way. If you're looking to find somebody who hurt you, you will find somebody who hurt you 100%. If you're looking to see what this person in your life does wrong, you will find it, okay? But when you're coming from a place of love, when you look at how a person in your life represents love to you, or what the beautiful things that they have done for you, you will find that as well. And when you look from a place of understanding and forgiveness, you will find that circumstances in life, people in life, nobody is perfect and we're all flawed. And forgiveness allows you to accept people as they are without any negative emotion connected to it with what they've done to you or hurt you. Do you know what I mean? So
yes.
Ever since I've been in this place, and again, I'm a work in progress, we all are. Everybody is on this earth. You know, nobody's enlightened all the time. You know, we all experience emotions, and it's okay to experience negative emotions and positive emotions. So like, just understand that I forgot. I lost my train of thought there.
Yeah, that's great. I got you. And I just want
Yeah.
I want to stay with that just a little longer, if it's okay
Okay.
with you. You
Yeah.
mentioned two things that, and correct me if you think that I'm off base here, but there are two things you mentioned that I'm going to assume that some people struggle with. One is you mentioned loving yourself. And
Yeah.
two, you mentioned forgiveness, which includes forgiving yourself. So if you were
Yes.
working with someone and they're saying, look, Anna, I don't know how to love myself, or I don't know how to forgive myself, how would you work with them?
Oh my goodness. This is huge. And we all deal with this. All right. So I'm gonna, okay. We are whole, complete, and perfect. And we are love. We are already that. You don't have to work on forgiving yourself, work on becoming a better version of yourself, because you are that. Your blueprint is love and forgiveness and understanding. That's how God intended us to be, and that's always with us. That's who we really are. That's our true identity. But I'm sorry, not our true identity. That's our true being. All right. Mm-hmm. But what happens is we have, at times we have a negative emotions. We feel fear. We feel doubt. We feel anxiety. Those emotions are not really who we are. Mm-hmm. These are just feelings that come up. And what happens is sometimes we believe these feelings to be who we really are, but that is not really who we are. Let me just try to explain a little bit better. When you have a thought, it creates an emotion. And many times thoughts come into our minds and we believe that they're true. When you believe that the thought is true, it causes an emotion. So if you believe that you're a failure, the emotion that will come up is that it will be sadness. Or if you believe that somebody hurt you, the emotion that will come up will be anger or jealousy or something like that. But those emotions, they're just passing through. Sorry, those thoughts are just passing through. We don't need to believe those thoughts. We just need to let them pass. So to go back to what you were saying, if you have a hard time forgiving yourself, let go of the thought that there's something wrong with you that you need to forgive.
Wow.
Do you understand that?
Yes, I do. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are times when everything kind of slows down and you feel a certain level of clarity, confidence. I mean, you've had those moments, right? Mm-hmm. Have you?
Yes, I have.
In those moments, oftentimes, when we think back in memory of those beautiful moments we had, you'll realize that there's no thought. Like sometimes you fall into a moment and you're really present in that moment, practicing mindfulness, connection. And it's not about thought. It's about being with that person, being in the space that you're at. Mm-hmm. That's really that's really who we are. It's when we let thought come in and we start analyzing stuff, that's when the doubt comes in and and negative emotions. Sounds
good. Good. Yeah. So look, I mean, when you put stuff out there, people can find your writings. So I found some others. So I want to stay with this quotables. I'm calling them quotables. I'm quoting you that I want you to comment on. Here's something else I found from you. Don't mistake the weather of your mind for the sky of your being. Now you wrote that. What do you want us to gain from this?
Yeah.
And you might have already touched on it a little bit, but
I did.
Go deeper. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I really want to explain this good. And that's a quote. Actually, Eckhart Tolle has said that. I wish I could take credit for that quote. the sky, right, is beautiful and perfect, and it just exists, right? As we look at the sky, clouds might come in, right? But they'll always pass. So these clouds that are passing, it's like our emotions. And sometimes we identify with the emotions, we become the emotion. But we're not the emotion. We're much bigger than the emotion. Just like the sky isn't the clouds are just passing. So what that means is, going back to what I was just saying, we experience thoughts and we can just let them pass. We don't need to believe. I mean, if they're good thoughts, if you're thinking something that makes you feel happy and empowered, ride that cloud. Stay in the cloud. That's an awesome cloud. I'm not saying to let it go and not give it validity. But if you're experiencing a cloud that's coming, that's saying that you're not good enough, like in my case, that, you know, I'm disabled and my life will never be the same again. I will always be like, you know, one day people are gonna have to, I'm gonna be a burden to my kids one day. So like, that's a valid thought that will come up, right? As I'm getting worse physically, I have fear that comes up, and a thought will come up like that, like, Anna, where are you gonna be in 20 years? Are you gonna be a burden to your kids? And other times, like, we can, if that thought comes up, we can give it value and analyze it and feel like you need to do something about it. Or you can recognize that that's just a thought. It's not true, and let it pass. And that's what I'm trying to say. Let those thoughts pass. If you want to open a business, I was going into life coaching. I was so excited about it. It was coming from a good place. I'm connecting with people. I'm making a difference. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to write out a post out there and say, I'm offering coaching services. And then I'm like, okay, but what if people don't respond? That's just a thought. Yeah. And you know what? What if people don't respond? See, sometimes we are, I don't even necessarily know where they come from. They're called contaminated thoughts. We have pure thoughts and contaminated thoughts. Okay. Sometimes a contaminated thought will come in. Don't give that thought value. Let that cloud pass, you know? So that's what I was trying to say with that quote. These feelings come up. You are the master. You are the observer of your feelings. Right. Those feelings come up. You decide which cloud you want to ride. I want to ride this one. I don't want to ride this. And that's, I really find, it sounds simple, but I really find that that's the secret of happiness.
Okay. All right. I just love these quotables, what I'm calling quotables of Anna Giannakouros. So I'm going to ride this nice cloud a little longer. Here is another one that I found. And I'll tell you, I think this is my favorite. You've written a lot of blogs and a lot of short articles, but this is, I think, is my favorite. Here's what I found. You lose the person, but once you truly and deeply love someone, you can't lose the love. When I saw that, I thought, whoa. So what do you want us to look? What are you?
Oh my God, I love that one. That one is so good. Thank you for bringing these up from my page. I'm so happy. Like, that's so key in forgiveness. That is so key in forgiveness. So like, if you, like, I'll give you an example. This is what I do at times, the ability to love and feel connection is there with anybody, but it just, like in my case, it's easier for me to bring up those emotions when I think of my family and my kids, for example. So when I think of my kids, really, I have unconditional love for them. And whatever they do, even if they hurt my feelings one day, and they have hurt my feelings many times, I will always love them, and I will always forgive them. And the love that I have for them is completely independent of the relationship we have, like if we argue or not, or how they feel about me, or if they insult me. What if we were to see the whole world like that? Yeah. What if we were to love people in that way? Understand that we're all flawed. We all have egos, all of us. Nobody does not have an ego. The second you're saying, my name is Stephen, my name is Anna, we're identifying with our egos. I'm identifying with my name and my body. and what I do for a living and how much money I make and if I'm white or if I'm female or whatever. That is, in the grand scheme of things, that's really not who we are. It's just a small part, right? So understanding that we're a lot more than just our bodies and our mind, we can see other people for the beauty of what they are. You know, they have egos. They do things sometimes that hurt us. We do things that hurt them. Sometimes if we hurt somebody and they hurt us back, it's a vicious cycle. But really just seeing somebody for the love that they represent, that beautiful being that they are, it allows you to love them from afar, and you don't need to get anything from them, you know? And the same thing with me having MS and coming to terms with it. You know, life, there are things in life that we don't understand because we're only humans. You know, this whole world, the universe we live in, there's a lot of divinity and power going on that we can't really understand from this body that we're in and this earth that we're on, you know, and understand that, like, it's okay if bad things happen to you, and just forgive it and accept it with no judgment, and transcend it, and make the best out of your life, no matter what your circumstances, because you're alive. And maybe this is what you need to go through to evolve and find your inner self and find that love, independent of your circumstance and people. Do you know what I mean?
I got you. Yeah. So, well, that just brought up another question for me. So what is, and I hope this doesn't seem like an odd question, but it came to me, so I want to ask, what is multiple sclerosis teaching you?
Wow. I don't want to not give myself credit. I don't know how different my life would have been if I didn't get diagnosed. Maybe I would have been here talking to you for another reason. Maybe I would have found this path. So I you know, I don't feel that we need to go through awful things to become enlightened. I really don't feel that. And I don't claim to be that enlightened either. I'm just human. I make a lot of mistakes and I have a lot of emotions. But what I can tell you with all certainty is that I have never been more at peace with myself than I am right now.
Wow.
It's led me to this journey where I really love myself. I love myself. I love my body. I'm proud of my body. You know, like, it has imperfections, it's disabled, but it shows up for me every day. Every day my body tries, like, even when I try to walk and I have a hard time walking, my neck is working, my whole body is trying to help my legs pass, you know, like, or move. And so I feel like it really taught me or put me on a path to really understand, like, what our purpose is here on earth. And I really believe that our purpose here on earth is to connect with each other and love each other and help each other. I think that's really why we're on this earth. And if I had to go through this to feel this like this now, then it's okay. You know, I really do feel that way.
Wow. So how do you see your service as a chronic illness advocate? And also along with that, Anna, you know, do you see yourself as someone who speaks, you know, directly to multiple sclerosis patients, or do you see yourself who speaks to, you know, more broadly? How do you see yourself?
Okay, so what I've done is I've stopped having an idea of what I need to be. And so all I'm doing, Stephen, is just living by example.
Okay, that's
and
a good one.
whoever I could influence in any positive way, just from an example of just being alive and being a human and being a mom and having a chronic illness and being disabled, or just being a person that has feelings, that gets depressed sometimes, that feels lost sometimes. If whoever, and so basically I think I've covered everybody in the world, right? Because we all have those things. So that's who I'm here for, but not even more than that. I'm really just here to just be myself. And I don't want to label myself, oh, I'm this, oh, I'm that, because I have fallen into that. And in the past, and I don't need to do that anymore. I'm not in the place in my life where I need to prove that I'm somebody and have a title or whatever. I'm just going with what feels good.
Mhm.
And I know that I'm making a difference in people's lives. And it feels so good. It
That's
feels
great.
really rewarding. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. You already touched upon it in various responses to my questions, but I want to be precise here. What is your mission? Just forget, we know you're not in control about anything, but what if you were to articulate that? What is your mission? How do you want to serve the world?
I want to connect with people and just spread the love. As corny as it sounds, I want to be a role model for my children. I want to be the best version of myself for my kids. I don't want my kids to feel like, their mom is sick and disabled and that it caused them, like, I don't want them to feel negative about that.
Mm-hmm.
So my mission is to exist, love myself as I exist, and knowing that that's enough. We're all perfect and whole as we exist.
Yeah.
We don't need to do stuff to feel good.
Yeah.
We are good. We are miracles and beautiful. We're divinity,
Yeah.
And so just by being alive, that's perfect. And then from there, so I just want to be alive. And then from there, I want to enjoy my life, do things that are fun, help people if I could, and be a positive influence, have positive interactions with people.
Yeah.
That's really what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you certainly have done that today. So you've mentioned your kids. How old are your kids? And boy, girl?
I have 3 children. My daughter is 19.
Really?
My son, yeah. My daughter's 19. My son is gonna be 18 soon. He's 17 now. And my youngest is 13. So I have a daughter and 2 sons.
Okay, that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Anna, it was certainly a pleasure talking with you today. Someone told me about you, and I thought, I got to talk to her. I said, would you put us together? And she agreed to do so, and here we are. So wonderful to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was so nice chatting with you. I feel great.
All right. Well, you've been listening to the Possibility Action Network podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Middleton. Today, our guest has been Anna Giannakouros, a life coach, a health consultant, and a chronic illness advocate. Anna, once again, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.